Yeah, hello everyone. Very good afternoon to you all. So this is another important session, the second webinar for the New Year 2021. And today we have a speaker from the TPM arena. So we're going to hear something very interesting about TPM. I guess the concept is known to most of our students, but I know personally Mr. Pushpakumar has a much broader perspective of TPM, and he is even giving a new definition to TPM. It is no longer just total productive maintenance. You will hear it from Mr. Pushpakumar himself. So let me quickly give an introduction to Mr. Tilak Pushpakumar. He's a lean certified from University of Michigan. He hold a lean master black belt. He's a certified change facilitator as well. And in terms of TPM, he's a JIPM accredited TPM instructor, Japanese Institute for Plant Maintenance, JIPM. He has extensive years of experience in the industry. He was formerly plant manager of Unilever Sri Lanka, and he was also the general manager of productivity improvement and training and development at Lodestar. And right now he is functioning as the CEO of Institute of Lean Management and Management Consultant at Hirayama Corporation, Japan. Uh, he has facilitated more than 1,000 continuous improvement projects. And if you quantify the savings, it is estimated to be 2.5 billion savings in the industry since 2009. Mr. Pushpakumar has trained around 60,000 executives and managers at different levels of 300 leading organizations in Sri Lanka and overseas. I should say, including myself, actually, back in 2010. I got his training then when I was in industry. And Mr. Pushpakumar has certified more than 2,000 professionals as TPM practitioners, lean professionals, and advanced 5S instructors in Sri Lanka as well as overseas. So today we are going to hear from Mr. Pushpakumar, TPM for Manufacturing Excellence. This is very much relevant to our discipline. So I would kindly invite Mr. Pushpakumar to start his webinar. Mr. Pushpakumar, over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Prasanna. So good evening, everybody. So I warmly welcome you for the TPM community in Sri Lanka and the world of TPM. So on behalf of Institute of Lean Management Private Limited. So Institute of Lean Management Private Limited is the only recognized and certified body for TPM in Sri Lanka. We have the accreditation. I got the accreditation from JIPM as a TPM instructor in 2006. So from 2009, I started developing TPM practitioners in Sri Lanka. So more than 100 companies nominated their managers, engineers for TPM practitioner certificate course. It is an 8-day program. And more than 750 engineers in Sri Lanka today followed my program, and rest of the people are manufacturing professionals. So, and I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Asela and the faculty and for giving this opportunity for me to share my TPM knowledge and experience with the students. Now, TPM originated in Japan. So if someone asks what does TPM stand for, many people say it is total productive maintenance. It is total productive maintenance, right? No, but there are different types of definitions for TPM. Now, if you look at the history of TPM, the TPM concept introduced in Japan in 1971. Now in 1950s, the Japanese maintenance was breakdown maintenance. That's all. When the machine breaks, they repair the machine. And after that, they went to USA and learned preventive maintenance. American people, American industry introduced preventive maintenance and after Second World War, actually before Second World War, because they wanted to maintain the zero breakdown in weapons manufacturing plant to win the war. Okay. So after that, they expanded the TPM concept to other industries. That is how the TPM started in USA. And then Japanese people went to USA and learned preventive maintenance, and they identify the gap of preventive maintenance, especially when it comes to cost. The preventive maintenance is very costly. So you replace the parts. So, and you just follow the manufacturer's recommendations. And it is costly. Then Japanese people, so then they developed this concept further. In 1957, they developed corrective maintenance. The corrective maintenance is a continuous improvement approach in maintenance. When there's a machine breakdown, you have to analyze the breakdown, identify the root cause, and develop a new design. Okay. Now, if I take an example to explain the corrective maintenance, now take a belt. The belt is very expensive, right? So there is a natural deterioration for the belt. Every 3 months, we have to replace the belt as per the time-based maintenance schedules. Okay. Now, this corrective maintenance thinking is they applied some Teflon on top of the belt, okay, and they extend the life cycle of the belt by 1 month. Then you replace the belt after 4 months' time. Okay, so corrective maintenance basically, so what it does is, so it extends the life cycle of the spare part. Then your maintenance cost is less. But Japanese people's thinking is, they say maintenance is a non-value adding activity. Okay? So we should not promote maintenance. It is costly. When there's a maintenance, no production. Okay? It is a loss to the company. Then they wanted to develop the maintenance prevention thinking. Okay. In 1960s, they developed this maintenance prevention thinking. They benchmarked the electronic industry. If you look at many electronic instruments, we don't have maintenance. Take your TV, no maintenance at all, right? Okay. So they copied from electronic industry and they adopted that thinking to mechanical devices also. So their concept is run to fail. No maintenance, run to fail. There are many instruments today, so we don't do maintenance. Electronic components, we don't do maintenance. And the mechanical components also. Now take a simple example of a car battery today. So no maintenance at all. About 5-6 years ago, yes, so we did maintenance for our car batteries. Now it is run to fail, maybe 1 year, 2 years, no maintenance at all. So likewise, the industries are now developing maintenance-free equipment gradually. Now lubrication-free equipment, machine is running with dry heads, no lubrication. That is also maintenance prevention thinking. Maintenance prevention thinking. So now, but maintenance prevention is not possible always, not for all machineries. Then they thought, okay, we will come up with a productive maintenance. Productive maintenance is what? When you say productive, it's low cost, right? But when it comes to cost, so you can think in 3 different ways. Maintenance at any cost. Some aircraft manufacturing companies, they follow this thinking. They are not worried about the cost. So their concern is the reliability when it comes to aircraft maintenance, reliability. So they practice reliability-centered maintenance. It's a different concept, not TPM, RCM, reliability-centered maintenance, expensive, and maintenance at any cost. So that is the thinking they follow. And some industries, they follow maintenance at lowest cost. That also wrong approach. Maintenance at lowest cost is very dangerous because it badly affects the life cycle of the equipment. So we don't encourage, TPM doesn't encourage maintenance at lowest cost thinking. Okay, then you have to go for a new machineries. Yeah, okay. So very soon. So I have this experience when I was when I worked with Unilever and I worked with many industries. So we had a lot of bad practices those days. Still, it is there in some industries. We call it tape engineering. When there's a problem, they apply a tape, and they apply some we call Lano engineering, right? We call and Kambi engineering, kind of a temporary adjustments to save money. So that is the attitude of some engineers today. So we should not encourage that attitude, maintenance at lowest costs. Then what is the right approach as far as cost is concerned? Maintenance at optimum cost. TPM is promoting that thinking, maintenance at optimum cost. So then it is productive, right? So and when when we take the machine for maintenance, no production, and maintenance people take long period for maintenance. Now some companies, so they have planned shutdowns. They take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, some companies. That is for annual maintenance. It is a waste. It is a waste. We should reduce the total time taken for maintenance. That is one approach. And other one is we should go for the maintenance at optimum cost thinking. So then only you can so think of productive maintenance. So Japanese people introduced to the industries in 1960s. And then 1971, so they realized without the involvement of operators, the production people, we cannot maintain the equipment. There was a research that in this research, it says 60% of machine breakdowns happens due to 3 main reasons. What are those 3 main reasons? Lack of lubrication, lack of cleaning, lack of lubrication, and lack of tightening of nut and bolts. Sometimes it's over tight, then it breaks. Sometimes under tight, it also a problem. So these are the 3 main reasons for 60% of the breakdown. That's what Japanese people say: cleaning, lubrication, and tightening. So now who is responsible for cleaning of the equipment, lubrication of the equipment, the tightening of the nut and bolts? Before 1970, only engineering people took the responsibility on these 3 areas: cleaning, lubrication, and tightening. Then Japanese people realized that because realize it as a problem because we don't have mechanics for each and every machine to maintain, but we have operators. Every machine, so we have one operator. Okay, so then they thought if we can transfer some of the engineering, some of the maintenance activities to the operators, then they can maintain the equipment perfectly. So especially cleaning, lubrication, and tightening, they wanted to transfer to operator from mechanic to operator. Okay, so with that, Japanese people introduced the word total in front of productive maintenance. Then it became total productive maintenance. Total means with the involvement of operator and mechanic, right? The total means with the combination of many type of breakdowns: breakdown maintenance, corrective maintenance, preventive maintenance, time-based maintenance, condition-based maintenance, the combination of maintenance methods. This is the meaning behind the word total. So first time in Japan, they introduced TPM to Denso. Denso was part of Toyota Motor Corporation those days. And first time in the history that Denso introduced the TPM concept. Okay, and there was a gentleman called Saishi Nakajima, so known as the father of TPM. He studied the preventive maintenance deeply and he studied the total quality control concept introduced by USA people so seriously, and he realized the gap of these two concepts. The gap is no proper way to manage the equipment, no proper way to maintain the equipment. Then these concepts talk about the defects. TQC talked about defects. The preventive maintenance is talk about breakdowns. But to challenge zero breakdowns, we have to get the involvement of the machine operators. So that's the gap the Saichi Nakajima noticed in these two concepts, and he introduced autonomous maintenance concept to preventive maintenance. Now, with autonomous maintenance, it became total productive maintenance. That is how the concept started in Japan, Saichi Nakajima, so the father of TPM. Now, when you say TPM, it is now people will think, oh, this is a maintenance tool. This is an engineering tool. No, it is not an engineering tool. TPM is not an engineering tool. TPM is a manufacturing tool. It's a production tool. It's a production tool. But maintenance is involved. I will explain you the 8 pillars of TPM later. Now, so when it comes to CEO level, the managing directors, chairman's thinking is different. What is their thinking? The cash flow, the profit. Right? The chairman's managing directors, they don't like to see the engineers in the morning. Why? When engineers are coming to them, they know that he's coming and asking money for maintenance or asking money to buy a new machines. They don't want to see the engineers' faces basically theoretically. I have that experience. Okay, I'm sharing my experience. Okay, nobody can say no. I worked with 5 leading companies in Sri Lanka. So this is the attitudes they have towards engineers today. But so they love to see the marketing managers, the sales managers, because they're the people who bring money to the business. Engineers are spending. That is the attitude they have. Okay. So it was very difficult to promote TPM concept for CEOs and chairmen. And then the JIPM, Japan Institute of Plant Maintenance, so they have the patent, global patent for TPM. They can stop anybody's teaching TPM in the world. They have the right. But since I have the accreditation, so I can do that. So then nowadays in the business world, what does TPM stand for? Total profit management. That is the latest version of TPM today. When you say total profit management, everybody wanted to apply TPM in their manufacturing processes. So how TPM contribute to profit? The TPM mainly challenge 3 things. One is breakdowns. So zero breakdown is one of the objectives of TPM. Zero breakdowns. Now achieving zero breakdowns, can we make profit? Yes. I have done these calculations for many companies. The cost of breakdown, nobody calculate. They know the breakdown percentage. They know how many hours they lost due to breakdowns. When I asked what is the cost of breakdown for last financial year, nobody answered my question so far. They don't have this information. I did this calculation for many companies, about 9 companies today so far. I did this calculation. Now, so what, if I take an example, so one company, the cost of breakdown is 325 million for one company. 325 million. Can you believe this? The cost of breakdowns. They don't know how to calculate the cost of breakdowns. But I told them we have formulas, and so we have a basis how to calculate the cost of breakdowns. It's 325. 250 is close to 300 if it is a big company. Basically, this is the cost of breakdowns. Now, when you reduce the breakdowns, your spare part cost will be reduced, right? And man-hour cost will be reduced, and your opportunity cost, it is huge. So now there's a machine in one company, I cannot name it. Now that machine is very expensive machine, and If you stop that machine, so okay, if you stop that machine for 1 hour, their financial loss is 180,000 rupees. It is running with LP gas. It's a kiln, basically kilns. Okay, kilns. If you stop one kiln for 1 hour, so they lose 180,000 rupees. So can you imagine the size of the breakdown loss? So we need to bring this thinking to the accounting system. Our management accountants, they don't know how to calculate the cost of breakdown. Okay, so then that is one way to maximize profit. Now, other approach, other objective of TPM is challenging defects, zero defects. Now, cost of defects, that also huge. If you increase the yield, production yield by 1%, okay, the same company I did this calculation, 1% yield improvement leads to 1 million savings, 1 million rupee saving, 1%. Okay. So huge money again, defects. Then other approach in TPM is challenging accidents. That is called zero accident thinking, zero accidents. So then people say this is the TPM mantra. TPM mantra is zero breakdown, zero defects, zero accident. But cost of accident, when you calculate the cost of accident, it is very small, right? But the seriousness of accident, you cannot quantify. There are classic examples in Sri Lanka also. Okay, the Unilever had a big issue with a small accident, right? It was a fire, right? Okay, so they couldn't produce Astra margarine and Signal toothpaste months. Okay, now one Omega line factory burnt out, fully burnt out. So about 6-7 months they couldn't run the factory. The Brandix one factory about 3-4 years ago at Katunayaka, overnight fully burnt out. Okay, so a small incident, right? But when you calculate the lost time accidents and convert it to money, it is small, right? But you have to take it very seriously. Safety is very important for a business. Okay. So these are the 3 zeros. When you convert these into money, it is huge. It is huge. So that is why we used to say TPM stand for total profit management, okay, not total productive maintenance. But original thinking is total productive maintenance. Still JIPM says what does TPM stand for? Total productive maintenance. But people like us define TPM in a different way. Then only the CEOs invest for TPM, and that is why we go with this definition, total profit management. Now you can see these 3 letters. The TPM stand for total production management. TPM stand for total perfect management. TPM stand for total process management. TPM stand for total people management. So all are the relevant definitions. When you look at the content of TPM, you can define in that way. So in 1971, so Japanese people introduced TPM, and so then American people also learned from Japan. After that, first Japanese people learned from preventive maintenance introduced in USA. They developed it to TPM. After that, the Kodak company in USA first time introduced TPM to their industries, and they saved $5 million from TPM. So then it became popular in USA. But in parallel to TPM, RCM also very popular in USA and Europe. That is reliability centered maintenance. It's a different approach. TPM is a different approach. Now, so history says, now if you look at the history of maintenance, it is more towards time-based. Replace the part timely, as per the recommendations given by the machine manufacturer. Whether the part is good or bad, we don't take a risk, we simply replace it. Okay. And then TPM thinking is more towards condition-based maintenance. You look at the condition and then take the decision. You need some instruments to check the condition and some expertise also, you can combine the experience and the instruments both and identify the condition of the part and then replace. Okay, so whether it is TBM or CBM, you need to decide after evaluating your equipment, the criticality of the equipment. If it is a critical equipment, you may go with both concept, TBM as well as CBM. Okay, so that is a different exercise, how to select the maintenance method. Okay, that's a different exercise. Okay, so it is coming with equipment ranking. It's a different scope, right? So this is a history of TPM. Now, so what is the main purpose of TPM? The main purpose of TPM is developing two things. One is developing the machine and developing the people, operator. These are the two main objectives. This picture is clearly explained that there is a war. Okay, the conflict between man and the machine always. What man says? Man says machine breaks. What machine says? Man broke the machine. But machine cannot speak. So generally we take operator's side. We always take operator's sides and we blame the machine. Machine is breaking. Okay. That is the traditional thinking. But TPM practitioners thinking is different. TPM practitioners thinking is we always say machine is perfect. People break the machine. That is the TPM thinking. Okay. Machine is perfect. But if there's a design fault, that's a different story. If there's no design fault in the machine is perfect, we create problems. We mean the operator and the mechanic create the problems. So now TPM is a solution for this conflict. Okay. TPM develop the machine and TPM develop the operator. So what is the development of human resources in TPM? Initially, TPM developed the machine operator as a mechanic. It is possible. It is possible, right? Machine operator will become a mechanic of this particular machine, not as a general mechanic to handle all machines. No. The concept is the machine operator is capable of maintaining his own equipment, not anybody's equipment. That is the development of the operator. Operator will become a mechanic. Then what is the development of the mechanic? The mechanic's development is mechanic will become a maintenance engineer. He can do specialized maintenance. We have to train them. So JIPM has developed fantastic training modules to develop the operator. And there are 6 modules to develop the operator. And it's about 3 months course. And there are another 6 modules to develop the mechanic as a maintenance engineer, high level of engineering, the hydraulic, pneumatic, drive transmissions, all lubrication management, safety of the equipment. All these training modules are there to develop both operators and the mechanics. Then mechanics can handle high level of breakdowns without the support of qualified engineers. Okay. Now then, what is the development of the production engineers? What is the development? The production engineers are not required now. Okay. Operator can look after the maintenance, routine maintenance. The mechanics are now capable of doing specialized maintenance, repairs, modifications, kind of things. Okay. Now, what is the role of production engineer today? No role. Right? The production engineers development is the production engineers will become design engineers. The design engineers will develop maintenance free equipments. That is the role of production engineers today in the TPM world. Okay, not to fill the forms, right? Not to go through the lubrication schedules, right? We don't want qualified engineers to do this work. The operator can do this. The mechanics can handle it. Even doing the repairs, they can. we need qualified engineers to develop maintenance-free equipments. Okay, that is the role of production engineers. This is how we develop the people with TPM. Now, what is the development of the equipment today? The development of equipment is two ways. If you look at the old equipment, so you can develop this old equipment as a new equipment. So just like a brand new equipment. Okay. So TPM is ideal for old factory, old equipment. When I visited one factory in Vietnam, I noticed one notice board on the machine. What it says, that notice. It says, can you believe I am 60 years old? Machine says, there's a display board on the machine. That machine is 60 years old machine running at 85% overall equipment effectiveness. Effectiveness, not efficiency. Efficiency is just output of the machine. Effectiveness means the quality output. That is the difference between efficiency and the effectiveness. So 85% overall equipment effectiveness. Year-to-date figure, not 1 month figure, year-to-date figure. But some months it is more than 85. Okay, I was so impressed. Okay, so impressed. That is the power of TPM for old machines. Now, okay. So then, if you take new machines, how TPM helps new machines? Now, industry experience today is when you commission a new machine, it takes little time, not really little time, sometimes more time to produce quality product at predetermined speed. Okay, quality product at the predetermined speed. It takes time. That time we call learning curve or ramp up. That is normal for many industries today. Okay. Now engineers also say this is a new machine. Just wait. So it needs a little time to stabilize the all conditions. Okay. So you have to wait. So during that period, machine produce defects. Huge loss. Efficiency also 40%, 45%. Defect rate is 5%, 10%. I know many industries, they have this problem. They have this problem, right? Now, TPM teach engineers a tool called FMEA, Failure Mode and Effect Analysis. That is a very powerful tool for engineers. You must learn this tool. Okay. And with the what if technique, there's another technique called what if. Okay. So before you commission the machine, you have to go through this FMEA process. Before you purchase the machine, you should start with FMEA. Okay, right? Then that FMEA will surface all the issues, anticipated issues actually. You have to anticipate the issues and provide the countermeasures. That is the approach TPM teaches us in equipment development for new equipment commissioning. Okay, so that is a development for new equipments. Now it is very clear TPM develop both human resources and the equipment. That is the purpose of TPM. With that, entire organization is developed. Entire organization developed. If it is a manufacturing organization, what is the backbone of manufacturing industry? Machines, operators. Machines and operators. I mean, that is the backbone of industry. We need to develop both. But companies, they invest for management development. They don't worry about the shop floor development, workers development, operators development. And for maintenance also, they are not giving the fund. Maintenance also least priority in organization. And they don't release the equipment for maintenance. Okay, because of production pressure. that attitude is not supporting to implement TPM in industries. Okay, so I mean that is a very strong message I want to release today. The focus on the operator development and focus on the equipment development. That is the purpose of TPM, right? Okay. Now, let me explain you the 8 pillars of TPM. This is the process of TPM. Process. TPM focus results, process, people development, and the presentations also. Presentation is communication. We call RP3. Okay. Results, process, people, and presentation. Now, this is the process. There are 8 pillars. 8 pillars. And this is called TPM house. There's a foundation, pillars, and the roof. Okay. Foundation is daily management. Before you bring 8 pillars, before you bring TPM concept, so daily management should be in place. Daily management is, we have to have 5 S practices in place. 5 Japanese words, 5 S concepts. And then you have to have a production reporting system, recording system, and you have to have daily review meetings in place, and so and the problem solving approach. When there's a breakdown, so we should analyze it. When there's low hourly output, we need to investigate why, and safety also should be in place. So those things comes under daily management. Okay. Yeah. So and then only you can bring the TPM pillars. Now I will go through one by one. There are eight pillars of TPM. Now education and training. Education and training is very important pillar. In this education and training pillar, we don't focus much about managers development. The education and training pillar focused on operators and mechanics development. Okay, operators and mechanics development. Now this education training is to the TPM way is different from traditional HR. Now traditional HR training is generic. So we identify the trainer, we identify the training program, then we nominate all people for this training. That is called generic program. Organize leadership program for all managers. Organize a presentation skill workshop for all managers. Right? And there are good people in the audience. This training is not required for them, but still they attend the training. That is called generic training. It is a waste. One research says 80% of global training, this is a global issue, right? 80% of training go waste. 80% of training go waste, means investment is a waste. Why? We don't have a system to evaluate the return on investment for training. TPM address that issue. Now, education and training focus loss-based training. So before you organize a training session for your organization, so you have to identify the loss. What are the losses? Then analyze the loss. Then identify the relationship with this loss and the man, the loss and the method. Then focus on man and the method, and then develop the training modules. Okay, it's a very good technique to do training need analysis, loss-based training. After the training, the losses should be reduced. After the training, my overall equipment effectiveness should be increased. Otherwise, no point of giving training. Okay, so then education and training pillar is headed by the human resource manager in the company. Okay, so and we will develop the skill matrix for all operators, and in this skill matrix we focus the maintenance skills. We give the priority for maintenance skills. Okay, so I mean both operators and the mechanics, maintenance skills, and we will identify the current skill level and what is the target, skill level, current skill level, and the target skill level, and how to bridge the gap. So this is the program. Okay, right. And then autonomous maintenance. There is a uniqueness of TPM. If you want to learn more about TPM, you have to learn more about autonomous maintenance. Autonomous maintenance in Japanese, they call Jisu Hosen. And with that, only TPM came. So autonomous maintenance. Now, what is the main objective of autonomous maintenance? The development of the operators. So what development? Skill development. What skill? The maintenance skills, basically. Now, skill development is not enough. Parallelly, you have to develop the attitude of the operators. The autonomous maintenance objective is, one of the objective is skill development, other objective is attitude transformation. What sort of transformation? Now, today's attitudes of the operators are, the operator's attitude is, I operate, you maintain. I operate the machine, you mechanic, you come and maintain the machine. I'm not responsible for maintenance. That is the typical attitude we have today in the industries. With that attitude, you cannot challenge zero breakdown status. You have to transform the attitude from I operate, you maintain to I operate, I maintain. That is the attitude we need to promote in TPM. This is Jisu Hosen, autonomous maintenance. There are 7 steps of autonomous maintenance. 7 steps. Now, first step starts with cleaning the machine thoroughly and identify the abnormalities. Now, this is very powerful technique. So you don't believe it. You don't believe it. When you clean the machine, you find a lot of abnormalities. You find a lot of abnormalities. You have to correct them. You cannot run the machines with abnormalities. That is one of the principles of the TPM. Don't run machines with abnormalities. Abnormalities means not breakdowns. Abnormalities mean not breakdowns. Now, example, the one part is attached to the machine part attached with 3 nuts, but it is designed with 4 nuts. 1 nut is missing, but machine is running. Okay. So how it contributes to the machine performance? It will create breakdowns. Okay, the vibration issues. Okay, and one belt is slightly loose, but still you can run. One belt is off-centered. Yes, off-center belt. You can run the machine. Okay, and there's a slight oil leak. Still you can run the machine. Okay, so there's a small crack. Still you can run the machine. So I can give you many examples like this. Okay, so people think that it is not a problem. So those are minor defects. Those are minor defects. So one of the typical attitudes of engineers are today, they neglect minor defects. They always focus on major defects of the equipment or moderate defects of the equipment. Then who is looking after minor defects? Nobody. Engineers, mechanics, they have a lot of work. They deal with major and moderate defects of the machine. Now, these minor defects creates problem finally. The minor defects leads to major breakdowns one day. Now, we want to develop operators under autonomous maintenance to identify the minor defects we call abnormalities of the machine. This is one of the secrets of TPM. Okay, so that is the main reason to clean the machine thoroughly. When you clean the machine, only you can see the abnormalities. Otherwise, you can't see at a glance. So engineers are not bothered about minor defects. Okay, they are not bothered. They have a lot of work to do. Right. So if you practice Jisu Hosen, and then you will have defects, minor defects, free equipment. then that equipment will run at high efficiency. That's what TPM says. Okay, so please practice autonomous maintenance. There are 7 steps of autonomous maintenance. So you can go through the net and find the information, or you can contact us later. So I will share some information about autonomous maintenance. We have a lot of documents. You can read it and understand. Okay. And now, okay, who is giving the leadership for the autonomous maintenance pillar? Production manager. Production manager. If we can recruit production engineers, manufacturing engineers for industries today as the production managers, it will give a lot of benefits. Now, my experience today is our production managers are not engineers. Okay, not engineers. And I can say about 10 to 15% with my 25 years industry experience, I'm sharing this with you. Not more than 10 to 15% production engineers are qualified, the production managers are qualified engineers. Okay. And I think your faculty is producing production engineers and manufacturing, industrial engineers. So they should go and take over this role in the industry. Then industry will definitely will have the benefits. Okay. The biggest challenge we have today to implement autonomous maintenance is the operators' basic knowledge. If we can recruit mechanics, qualified fitters as machine operators, we will have a brighter future, very good future for industries. But unfortunately, the qualified mechanics, fitters, they don't want to join as the machine operators. But in Japan, leading industries, they hire people only from the technical schools, engineering schools for the factories. But in our case, it is totally different. Same thing for production managers. Very pathetic. Okay. Now, some industries, they have realized it. They are trying to replace the production manager with engineers today. It's a good trend. It's a good trend. Engineers need to develop their soft skills to take this role, take this challenge, because production manager is mainly working with shop floor people, dealing with shop floor people. So how to manage the people? The leadership soft skills matters a lot. Matters a lot. So there's a gap in engineers with these skills, soft skills, and the leadership competencies. Right. And then look at the plant maintenance pillar. In Japanese, they call Keikaku Hosen. Hosen means maintenance in Japanese. Plant maintenance. Now, plant maintenance is the big picture. The preventive maintenance, corrective maintenance, time-based maintenance, maintenance prevention, all comes under the plant maintenance framework. Okay. The objective of plant maintenance is what? Now, what is the role of a mechanical engineer today, plant engineer today? If I ask this question, I'm sure the engineers will tell me maintain the availability of the equipment at higher level. Equipment availability. Right? Everybody wants to maintain the availability of the equipment. Now, equipment is available. When it operates, it produces defects from time to time, but machine is working, available. So now TPM language is different. TPM says, make sure the availability of the reliable equipment. Machine does not produce defects. That is the role of the maintenance managers today. Not only that, I need to add one more part. Not at any cost. Maintenance at optimum cost. Then what is the role of the plant maintenance pillar? Make sure the availability of the reliable equipment at optimum cost. That is the role of plant maintenance. Okay. And spare part management, information management, lubrication management, and supportive activities for production department to introduce autonomous maintenance concepts, because they have to train people on basic engineering skills. So there are a lot of activities. There are mainly 8 activities for a maintenance manager today in a TPM factory. Okay. So I will explain you the key performance indicators for a plant maintenance pillar separately because you are interested in engineering. So now look at the next pillar. What is the next pillar? It is early management. Okay, early management. Early management is R&D job basically. The early management pillar we can divide into two. One is early equipment management. One is early product management. Early product management. Okay. Early equipment management is what? When you commissioning the new machines, how to make sure vertical startup, no ramp up, vertical startup. Okay. That is the objective of early equipment management. And early product management is when you launch a new product. When you launch a new product, still you have to maintain the vertical startup. Okay, vertical startup. So this is the role of early management pillar. And if you can appoint a qualified engineer for this pillar, it would be ideal as a leader. Okay. Now, education and training, of course, your HR manager will be the leader. So engineering department should give the support to develop the training modules to teach operators on basic engineering skills. Then autonomous maintenance, of course, is the production manager should be the leader because he need to convince the operators to take over the responsibility of routine maintenance. That is the biggest challenge we have today. So they don't want to take the responsibility of mechanics. So there's a small conflict there. They need to address it strategically. Plant maintenance, of course, is a qualified engineer. Early management, if you can appoint an engineer, it would be ideal to implement TPM. And then focused improvement. Focused improvement in Japanese, they call Kobetsu Kaizens. The focused improvement pillar is headed by the factory manager or general manager manufacturing. Okay, because he is the person who decides the deliverables, results. Okay, the focus improvement pillar focused on 16 type of losses in the manufacturing process. Okay, and main KPI of focus improvement pillar is overall equipment effectiveness, OEE. And he initiated a lot of cost reduction projects and to improve overall equipment effectiveness and to minimize maintenance. Why we call it quality maintenance? Why not quality management? In TPM, quality maintenance means maintain the equipment properly, then it does not contribute to make defects. Okay. Now, if you take one simple machine, so there are 100 parts, maybe 500 parts assembled together. Okay, in this machine. When I ask a lot of engineers, do you know how many parts this machine has? Nobody answered so far. Take a very simple sewing machine, single needle Juki machine. When I ask these engineers, maintenance managers, how many parts this machine has? Nobody answered so far. Okay, they didn't refer the manual. There are 950 odd parts in a single needle small Juki machines. But people are not interested to learn those information. So then how can they become a good maintenance manager without knowing the number of parts and function of the parts, the deterioration modes of the part, and what is the corrective method for this deterioration? They should learn these things, right? So it is, there's a gap in our engineers today. So they are not bothered about the total mechanism of the parts. Right. So I always say TPM practitioners are just like doctors. The TPM is the medical science of the equipment. Okay, so they need to understand the functions, deteriorations, and force deterioration, all these things in the parts. Now, in quality maintenance, there are some parts which directly contribute to making defects. That part we call quality component. So identify these special parts of the machine. Any machine has these parts. Q component we call. So you have to maintain those parts perfectly, and then this machine does not contribute to make profit. So we call managing quality by managing equipment. So that is why we call it quality maintenance. Quality maintenance. If you can appoint an engineer as a leader of this pillar, it's a, it's a good initiative. But so unfortunately, our quality managers today are not engineers. Right? Engineers are not interested to become quality managers. There's a gap in our industries today. But USA, there are a lot of quality engineers. That's the qualification also, quality engineer. Okay, but our factories we don't have. Very rarely you can identify so engineer as a quality manager. Very rarely. So there's a gap. Right, that is quality maintenance. In Japanese, we call Hinshitsu Hosen. And eighth pillar is safety, hygiene, and environment. We call SHE pillar. The objective of SHE pillar is make sure zero accidents and zero environmental issues and zero occupational health issues. So that is the objective of SHE pillar. Safety assured perfect line, health assured perfect line, ergonomics basically, and environment assured perfect line, environment assured perfect line. So, these are the main activities of 8 pillars, and I explain you in brief. So this is our TPM house, and our objective is reducing production losses to reduce production cost. That is the objective of TPM. Okay, that is our the ultimate aim: reduce production losses to reduce production cost. Basically, conversion cost. Okay, conversion cost. TPM focus the conversion cost. Right. Now look at this slide. Now we are interested in zero breakdown strategy. TPM started with zero breakdown strategy. Initially, the TPM had only 5 pillars. So only 5 pillars. I highlighted those 5 pillars here. Later on, they added 3 more pillars. Okay. Now, what is your approach to challenge zero failure? This is a very good approach developed by Japan Institute of Plant Maintenance and through their researchers. Okay. This is a perfect approach. I tried and it really worked. It really worked. Now, first approach is fulfill the basic requirements. Fulfill the basic requirements. What are the basic requirements of equipment? Cleaning, lubrication, and tightening standard. Tightening standard. Okay. So very rarely I see the mechanics are using torque wrench to tighten the nut and bolts. Very rarely. They apply the various the pressures to nut and bolts. Okay. Fulfill the basic requirements. That is a first approach. Cleaning, lubrication, and tightening of the machine. And then observe the usage condition. Observe the usage condition means what? Just look at whether we are running at the right speed and whether we are giving the right voltage to the machine. Okay. And whether we are using the right spare parts. Okay. So likewise, observe operating conditions of the machines and the conditions of the machine parts. Observe. That observation you can do through thorough cleaning. Okay. To identify abnormalities, you can do a very good cleaning exercise. Then you can see the abnormalities. Then restore deterioration. And we call force deterioration. We restore the forced deterioration. Now, natural deterioration, so we have to accept it. There's a life cycle for any parts. So we call it natural deterioration. In TPM, we challenge the forced deterioration. Okay, forced deterioration. Forced deterioration means the part is wearing more rapidly than usual due to certain human activities. That's what we call forced deterioration. Okay, very popular word in TPM. Forced deterioration. Elimination of forced deterioration is the objective of autonomous maintenance. Okay, restore deterioration. Now, restore deterioration is little expensive. Now, if you practice TPM, if you start TPM, immediately your repair and maintenance costs will be increased for sure. Why? You have to restore deterioration. When you restore deterioration, you have to replace for forced deteriorated parts. Okay, it's costly. Then gradually you can see the repair and maintenance cost is reducing. Okay, restore deterioration. And then improve weak points in design. Improve weak points in design. If there's a design fault, machine breaks. So we can take a lot of examples from automobile industry. So we have that experience with some of the cars. So if there's a design fault, so we can't maintain the conditions. You can replace it, but again it breaks. Improve the weak point in design. Okay, but very little opportunities for that. Very little opportunity. If you practice the first three approach, you can see the big improvements in the equipment. Big improvements. Okay, about 60% improvement with first three steps. And the last one is improve technical skills. Improve technical skills of mechanics and the operators. Mechanics and the operators. Okay. Right now, if you look at the relationship between these 5 measures and the TPM pillars, you can see autonomous maintenance pillar has a big role to play in challenging zero breakdowns. So autonomous maintenance pillar means operator is taking the responsibility of cleaning, lubrication, and tightening of their own equipment. That is the biggest challenge we have today in the industries. How to convince the operators to take over these responsibilities. Okay. So these issues we need to address separately. Those are management issues, not technical issues. Now then the next pillar is the plant maintenance. Plant maintenance pillar also has a big role. So autonomous maintenance and plant maintenance. So this is the approach Japanese people taught us. If you want to challenge zero failure, please follow this process. Right. Now, again, maintenance. Now, how do you measure the effectiveness of your maintenance program, your TPM program? There are KPIs. One is OEE, that is the main KPI to measure the effectiveness of TPM. Now, when it comes to plant maintenance, so these two measures are very important. MTBF stand for what? Mean time between failure. And other measure is MTTR, mean time to repair. So mean time between failure, you can simply understand with these images. Now, so take this vehicle. So continuously it drives the distance called capital A distance, and then it brakes. The repair time is simple A. Again run capital B. Again brake simple B. Likewise, total 10 days. Okay. Now A plus B plus C plus D divided by 4, you get the mean. You get the mean. So this is called mean time between failure. Okay. And other measure is MTTR, mean time to repair. So simple A plus B plus C divided by 3, you get the mean. It's called mean time to repair. Now, how do you improve these two measures? Now, MTBF improvement, you need to do a lot of Kaizens, improvements in the machine to reduce breakdowns. You have to do a lot of analysis to identify the root cause of the breakdowns. Basically, you can use 5Y analysis, very powerful, simple breakdown analysis tool. Then you have to do modifications, improvements, and you have to practice all maintenance schedules. So big action plan to improve MTBF. Now, when it comes to MTTR, it is basically depending on the skills of the operator, and not only the skill also matters, but there are a lot of non-value adding activities. Now, say when there's a breakdown, the machine stops at 9 o'clock. Okay, the mechanic attends to the machine at 9:10. What happened to these 10 minutes? Administrative issues. Okay, then the mechanic took only 10 minutes to diagnose the problem. Okay, he diagnosed the problem. Now he needs to replace the part. Now he is moving with the part to the engineer to get the approval, and after that he is moving to the engineering stores to get the part and coming back to the machine. A lot of motions, waiting, so time wasting. See, that about 15 minutes. Okay, then he fixed the machine 5 minutes. Now what is the value added maintenance time? 15 minutes. 10 minutes for diagnosis, 5 minutes to fix the machine. But machine starts at 9:40. The total breakdown time is 40 minutes. But what is the value added time, repair time? It's 15 minutes. So 25 minutes go waste. For what? Due to approval system, due to layout issues, motion waste, people are moving here and there. And now also the same, the operator, the mechanics completed the repair at 9:35. But machine starts at 9:40. So what happened to these 5 minutes? That also goes under breakdown account, which is wrong. Real breakdown, value-added breakdown in 15 minutes, but we report 40 minutes. So if you analyze these issues, you can reduce MTTR, mean time to repair. These two KPIs are the main KPIs of a maintenance engineer, maintenance manager. This is how we look at. And in addition to that, the cost also comes. Now, how you look at the availability of the equipment? So this is the formula to measure the availability, MTBF divided by MTBF plus MTTR. So to make the best availability, so you have to increase the MTBF and reduce MTTR. Okay, so this is what the TPM does. Now look at, since you are into manufacturing, so these 16 type of losses will be useful, and these are the losses we have in our manufacturing processes. Take any manufacturing process, you can see these 16 type of losses. So main focus of TPM is reducing these 16 type of losses. Now we calculate the cost of these losses and we name it loss cost. We know the losses and convert it to money, then you can see this is your loss cost. So I have done this exercise for 9 companies so far. So some companies it is 700 million. Some companies it is 800 million. Okay. So minimum amount I found is 425 loss cost. Okay. Right. Now just go one by one quickly. And the shutdown loss, number 8 is shutdown loss. Shutdown, why we call shutdown as a loss? Shutdown is shutdown, it's a planned shutdown. We have to do shutdown. We have to do preventive maintenance. Annual shutdown is a must. Yes, we have to do shutdown. But why we call it shutdown loss? Because no production during shutdown. So TPM says reduce your planned shutdown time. Planned shutdown time. One company. So I influence people to do that. The 21 days shutdown period, they reduced it to 16 days. 35 million gain. 35 million gain. Okay. 4 days saving. 4 days. Okay. 5 days. Yes, 5 days. So we can do that. You have to monitor the shutdown program closely. During shutdown period, the mechanics engineering department efficiency is about 60% maximum. Very slow because they know that they have 21 days to complete it. Right? So they take their own time. So we have to focus on that. And then breakdown loss, failure loss, breakdown loss, and then setup and adjustment loss, Setup and adjustment is not a breakdown. Operator stop the machine. Mechanics also sometimes involved, and they do little adjustments and run the machine. It may be 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes time. They don't report it. They report only breakdowns. But we need to report setup and adjustment loss also. And then cutting tool replacement loss we call changeover loss. Changeover loss. Why we should consider changeover as a loss? So some companies they have given standard time for changeovers, 8 hours for changeovers, 4 hours for changeovers. No, you have to give 9 minutes for changeovers. There's a tool introduced by Toyota, Mr. Shigeo Shingo. That tool is SMED, SMED, single minute exchange of dice. That tool helps. That tools teach you how to reduce the setup time to 9 minutes. But 9 minutes setup time is not possible for all industries. But with SMED tool, you can reduce the changeover time drastically. So practice SMED and reduce the changeover time. Okay. And then startup loss. Startup loss. Now, if you take Monday morning, so nobody can start the production at 6 o'clock. People report to work at 6. But if you take the 6 to 7, 1 hour production, it is always less than 50%. Why? There are multiple reasons for that. So TPM teach us how to reduce the startup loss. Okay. Now, some companies every day they have it because they don't have night shift production. If it is a 24-hour production, you can continue without startup. If you don't have night shift production, every morning you start, then there's a startup loss. Now, first 4 losses in TPM we call downtime. That is the word we use. Downtime. Okay. Now, okay, let's focus on 5th and the 6th losses. 5th loss, the minus stop and idling loss. Minus stop, less than sometimes less than a minute. Operator stop the machine immediately, and he corrects something, and he restart the machine. So not recorded this information. Nobody recording. Minus stop. And idling means the machine is running without products. Okay, that is idling. Machine is running, but no products. Now say the bottle washer is running. Bottle washer is running without bottles, but no breakdown is reported, but no output also. That's called idling. Now, quality defects and rework loss. Quality defect and rework loss. So you have to identify number of defects and look at the cycle time of each product, cycle time, and then you can calculate it to time loss. Number of defects converted to time. So due to defects and rework, so how many minutes we lost. Now, so first 7 losses, we call 7 major losses related to the equipment. So we need to address these 7 major losses immediately, because those 7 losses directly impact your overall equipment effectiveness. Now look at the 9 to 13, the management loss. Motion loss, line organization loss, logistic loss, measurements and adjustment loss. These losses also affect the availability of the equipment. Management loss means if we stop the machine due to non-availability of the material, it is called management loss. Okay. So there are a lot of issues in industries. I have experience. We stopped machines due to no pallets, no wooden pallets. We stopped the machines. But so it reports as availability loss, not because of the breakdown. The motion loss due to bad layout issues in the flow. Operator's movement is very high. So machine is idling, operator is moving. No breakdown, but no production. Line organization loss is we stop the machine due to no operators. Okay, no breakdowns. Machine can run, but no operators. So line organization loss. Logistic loss. What is logistic loss? We have all the materials inside the factory, but those materials not reached the user point on time. Okay, so we stop the machines because no forklift to bring the material. Those are logistic issues. Okay, and no operators to unload the materials. Logistic issues. And measurements and adjustment losses. Measurements and adjustment losses is R&D departments coming to the floor and doing little trials. They adjust the parameters. Okay, they want to take samples. They want to test materials. So then it disturbs the machine movements. It disturbs the availability of the equipment. That also we must measure. Now these 5 losses and 7 losses, altogether 12 losses, directly impact your overall equipment effectiveness. But JIPM says first focus on 7 major losses and reach your OEE up to 85%, and then focused on the 5 logistic and management losses. Then your OEE will be again reduced to 45, 50, then try to increase it up to 85 along with these 5 losses, the all 12 losses. Okay, so that is the JIPM approach to this 16 type of losses. And these 14, 15, and 16 losses are reported directly as a cost loss, not as a time loss. Number 14, yield loss. Yield loss is giveaway. Okay, now say take 1 tablet of soap. Standard weight is 75 gram, but we pack it at 80 gram, 78 gram. Take milk powder packet, the toothpaste. Okay, the weight, this is a giveaway, this is yield loss. Okay. For costing, we have taken 75 gram plus or minus 1, but actual weight is 78. So that is called yield loss. Okay, giveaway. And that is due to the capability of the machines, the process capability. Again, the TPM maintenance helps to reduce the yield loss. And number 15 is energy loss. Energy loss is steam, electricity, basically. Compressor air also. Compressor air means basically electricity loss again. Compressor air loss is again electricity loss. So we need to take actions to control energy, steam leaks, okay, and boiler efficiency kind of exercises we have to do. Boiler efficiency mean the proper cleaning of boiler tubes and all, and using the good water and checking the hardness and all, and then the steam leaks and insulations, pipelines, and using the correct steam traps and line sizing for when you distribute the steams. I mean, those things matters a lot when it comes to energy. And the power factor correction when it comes to electricity, you should run at 9.99. So a lot of companies at 9.4, 9.5. Okay, so you can do the power factor correction. And you using the wrong motors, the size of the motors. You can run this process with 10 horsepower motor, but at the moment you are using 15 horsepower motor. So due to various reasons, sometimes non-availability of the 10 horsepower, we use 15 horsepower. It became the permanent finally. So that was a standard. So those are the issues we identified in the industries. So you can do a audit to identify this. And compression leaks, huge overusage of compression. So those are the areas we should focus in the industry. You can save millions. My God, say compressor saving is huge, huge money, right? So one company, we completely shut down 2 compressors. They had 4 compressors, now running with 2 compressors. Believe me, that is the power of TPM. That is the power of TPM. Right. So number 16 is consumable loss. Consumable means mainly spare part. Lubrication, even welding rod also captured under consumable loss. Okay. So that is also huge, consumable loss. Now say take a bearing, so example, the bearing life time is 10,000 hours. But we replace bearing at 5,000, 6,000 hours. Okay. So that is a common issue in the industry. Why we can't utilize the maximum life cycle of the bearings? Many reasons. Wrong improper lubrication and wrong fixing. When you fix the bearing in the wrong way, you lost 2,000 hours on the spot. Then 8,000 hours remaining. Due to bad lubrication, you lost another 2,000 hours. So there are reasons. There are reasons for abnormal wear and tear. You need to focus on that. Consumer loss. Now, so in the TPM organization, we used to calculate these 16 type of losses and convert it to money and show this figure to the board of directors. Okay, and then so they take a decision. Okay, yes, 400 million we can save if you bring TPM of this company. Okay, so it is guaranteed. It is guaranteed. So far, I have saved the 2.5 billion for industries. Okay, with TPM and lean management principles, both. So mainly with TPM, it is very easy to do that. Okay, by reducing inventory, by reducing working capital with lean principles, it is big challenging because we are depending on the overseas suppliers mainly. So reducing the inventory level is difficult and risky also. Our supply chain is not ready to implement lean today. Okay, but you can't implement lean manufacturing without TPM in place. That is for sure. Right. So TPM focuses on 16 type of losses. Now, now finally, I would like to tell you how TPM helps to implement lean manufacturing in the organization. In lean manufacturing, our main focus is to reduce inventory. It means reduce working capital. Now, to reduce inventory, we have to reduce work in progress first. Work in progress. To reduce work in progress, we have to have a reliable equipment. With high level of machine breakdowns, you cannot reduce WIP. What if you reduce WIP without addressing the reliability of the equipment? Machine will be idling. Entire line will be idling. That is why we have WIP to hide the inefficiency of the machine. WIP helps us to hide the inefficiency of the equipment. Now there's a principle in lean called flow, continuous flow, one piece flow. You can't practice this one piece flow without reliable equipment. So then you have to implement TPM first and increase the reliability of the equipment, then reduce the work in progress. No risk. So then finally you can go for one piece flow. Okay, but you can start with 10 Ps, then reduce to 5 Ps, then improve the reliability of the machine. Toyota implemented TPM before they introduced their Toyota production system. They realized the importance of TPM and the importance of the equipment reliability. Okay, that is one area to focus. Now, I'll give you one industrial example. Now take apparel industry. So what is the value-added percentage of apparel industry? It is about 2% value addition. 90% is non-value added, and out of this 98%, another 60% necessary non-value added. Okay, we focus on the value added activity. So what comes under value added in apparel? Machining process, stitching and cutting. Okay, the machine involvements. Any organizations, any manufacturing organizations, value added activities are machining process. The process which change the physical properties of the material we call value added activities. Now, okay, what if they have a high level of breakdowns? It directly affects the value added activities of the business. So you have to have TPM in place. So without TPM, you can't increase the value addition. And some people want to practice just in time. So how can you practice just in time without having the reliable equipment? When there's an order, so your machine is on breakdown. So can you deliver it? You can't. Unhappy customer. As a contingency, what you do? You keep stocks. Why? You don't have reliable machineries. So you have to have safety stock to compensate the inefficiency. Now, if you want to practice just in time, the lean principles, please do TPM and improve your reliability and the availability of the equipment. Now, what is the heartbeat of lean manufacturing? The takt time. What is takt time? So available the time and divided by demand. Okay, the takt time. Takt time is how fast we can produce. So we plan accordingly. Now, what is the cycle time? Cycle time is how fast we can produce. Takt time is how fast we should produce. That the market demand. Then we have to balance these two. We call line balancing. And our line is balanced. Now, when you calculate the takt time, you don't take breakdowns into account. You assume zero breakdown status and calculate the takt time and plan accordingly. So what if breakdowns happen? It disturbs your takt time program. So you can't deliver on time. So it means you cannot practice this line balancing in lean without having reliable equipments and the availability of the equipment. So likewise, now say quality, okay, inbuilt quality. Now machine is producing defects. You have a very good quality assurance system, okay, to track the materials and finish good product. You have a very good quality assurance system. But machine produce defects. Materials are good. People are highly skilled. You have a very good methods. But machine is giving problems. No quality maintenance in place. So how can you introduce built-in quality? JIDUKA, automation, that is again TPM. So if you look at the lean management philosophy carefully, you can understand the role of TPM in lean manufacturing. So don't jump to lean manufacturing without introducing TPM concept to your manufacturing process. That is my message today. Final message is that. So TPM is important to implement lean manufacturing. So without TPM, your lean implementation will never be a success. Toyota, 6 years continuously, they implemented TPM, and they achieved zero breakdown status. After that only they touched their inventory levels. Very intelligently they did it. But we are in a hurry to implement lean, right? So without TPM, it is not possible. That is the final message. I think now time is up. So 5:30 to 7 is the time. So, and now if you have any questions, I can answer, or that you can post it to me. If you need more information on this, if you want my presentation or more information, I think so you can contact our institute and Dr. Asela, Dr. Prasanna, so they can contact our institute and get more materials if you want. So it is my pleasure to share my TPM experience, profound knowledge, and with the students. And so you are welcome. You are welcome. So once again, thank you very much for the opportunity to share my knowledge with the students of the Peradeniya University.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Pushpakumar. Are you okay if we spend about another 10-15 minutes?
No problem, no problem.
For a Q&A session?
No problem.
Yeah. Students and anyone who wants to ask questions, please, now it's time for you. We have time for few questions. You can unmute yourself and ask your question. Either you can send your question in the chat. Sorry, Namal. Yeah, Namal, please.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Pushpakumar. It was a very insightful talk. My question is this TPM applicable? Is there any way that you can apply the TPM concepts to service organizations? Is it only applicable to manufacturing organizations?
No. The benefit of TPM is very high in manufacturing. Now, when it comes to service organization, the application of TPM is very less. But JIPM, the approach is TPM goes up to sales. There are 3 levels of TPM. First level focused on production cost. Next level, second level focused on product cost. Then you have to bring TPM to supply chain. Okay. Now third level, TPM focus overall cash flow. Then it goes to sales. Now, if you look at the sales operation, so you can bring TPM. I have that experience when I was at Unilever, so we did small assignments. But in India, Indonesia, they introduced TPM to sales in a big way. If you challenge a TPM world-class award, you have to bring TPM into sales. Now, if you analyze a sales distribution network, you can identify losses. TPM is all about identifying the losses. Now, in a distribution network, there are many losses. There's a KPI to measure. Now, the KPI is CCFOT. CCFOT stands for customer case fill on time. Okay, that is availability of your product in the market. Now, the factory stores has many stocks. Distributors also maintain 1 month stocks. But retailers complain, my product is, this particular product is out of stock. How this happened? Factory has stocks, distributor has stocks, but retailer, so they don't have stocks. It means there is a loss in the distribution network. The TPM teaches us how to identify these distribution losses. So, I mean, on top of these 16 type of losses, there are some more losses coming when you continue the TPM. But JIPM says, don't start TPM with service department. Service department. Now, that is one example for sales. Now, if you take the bank, the bank is a service bank, but you can't see a big improvement with TPM. But without TPM, the bank cannot continue their functions. What if the machine breaks? The teller machine breaks. Air conditioner failed. Check printing machine failed. Cash counters failed. So those are instruments. So any service organization, you have photocopy machines, right? So they have to maintain those equipments. When it comes to equipment maintenance, TPM is a tool. TPM is a tool. Now take telecommunication sector. Telecommunication, okay, service sector. How many failures? So do you know the size of the maintenance cost of telecom? I cannot share this information. Huge money. For what? For breakdown maintenance. But they don't apply TPM. If they apply TPM, they can reduce their maintenance cost in a big way. So that is a service organization. So likewise, we can bring TPM to service organization, but there are no world-class achievements in service sector. There are more than 3,000 organizations. They won the TPM Excellence Award from JIPM. All organizations are manufacturing. So, I mean, service organizations are not going for TPM in a big way, but within the manufacturing organization, you have to introduce TPM in your accounts department to identify the losses. You have to introduce TPM in your stores, even in HR department. So in 8 pillars, there's one pillar called TPM in supply chain. There's another name for that is called office TPM. In a manufacturing organization, we have service department. So TPM teaches us how to get their involvement for TPM. So that is how we bring TPM to service, not in a big way. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pushkumaran.
Okay.
We have a question. We have a question from a student.
There is a course, and most popular productivity improvement program in Sri Lanka today is TPM Practitioner Certificate Course, 8-day program conducted at Galadari Hotel every Saturday. So far I have certified more than 1,500 manufacturing professionals and 750 engineers. Yeah. So in this 1,500, that is the most popular course. Almost all leading companies are sending their participants. When you join the industry, you can request this program. Almost all multinational in Sri Lanka, so they invested in TPM Practitioner Certificate course. So that is the only course available in Sri Lanka, and that is internationally recognized because I signed as a JIPM accredited TPM instructor. So that is the only course, okay, 8-day program. This is very my okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Mr. Pushpakumar, until we get some more question from a student, let me ask you a question. At the beginning, you mentioned about another approaches to maintenance or to maintenance management, which is RCM, reliability centers maintenance. If an organization wants to make a choice between TPM, RCM, like what should they be considering?
Yes, very good question, doctor. Very good question. And now, so RCM is an advanced maintenance tool. So before you bring RCM, you have to have autonomous maintenance in place. So my advice is you start with TPM and bring RCM later. So if you start with RCM, only engineers can involve in this maintenance program. Only qualified engineers can join this RCM because that program starts with FMEA. The shop floor engagement is not there in RCM. The highly engineering approach. Okay, now even JIPM advice after TPM, you have to bring RCM on top of PM pillar. That is the approach. Don't start with RCM. But for aircraft maintenance, they don't do TPM. They start with RCA because that is high level maintenance. All qualified people are the maintenance professionals in the aircraft maintenance crew. But here, the operator's involvement to maintain autonomous maintenance, cleaning, lubrication, and tightening, that is operator's job. So without TPM, don't think of bringing RCM to your company. Okay.
Okay, thank you. That's
yes.
very clear. Yep.
Yes.
We have time for a few more questions, please.
Prasanna, I have one question. Shall I go ahead?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Pushpakumar, for your excellent presentation. I think you have explained this complex concept to our students as well as the staff very simple way. That's very good. So I have one question regarding the practicalities of going ahead with this TPM, because now in a way, now when you want to implement TPM, you have to empower the machine operators. So sometimes in the industry, especially the mechanics, they wanted to keep their authority, and they do not prefer that others doing their job, at least in a part of the way. So
Yes.
how these kind of cultural issues going to be handled in practical implementations of such systems?
Yes, very good question, doctor. So that is the biggest challenge we have today to implement TPM in industries, especially in Sri Lanka. But in Japan, it's a different story. So all are qualified people who join the company as the operators. There's no problem. But in Sri Lanka, there's insecure feeling, as you correctly said, there's insecure feeling of mechanics, whether I lose my job, my credibility, right? My credibility. So that is the biggest issue. How I handle that issue is, now the maintenance people are qualified people. So we have to develop them to the next level. Now what maintenance people are doing today, so they do just cleaning. Cleaning is part of preventive maintenance today. It is not so in TPM. Cleaning is not a maintenance job. Okay, and the lubrication also is a very simple job. So convince your mechanics and give them advanced engineering training and develop them to the next level. Then they will find a lot of difficulties with the time. They say we don't have time. We don't have time. Then you can say, okay, you hand over this cleaning, lubrication, and tightening to the operators. The biggest issue is not the insecure feeling of mechanics. My experience is operators are reluctant to take over the responsibility. They're asking more money for that, right? They need more increments to do that. The mechanics are, most of the companies, mechanics are willing to hand over jobs. Then they will have relaxed time. Okay, then we have to introduce the high level of maintenance program for mechanic at the same time. Okay, and we have to upgrade the mechanics also. So gradually, with that only you can handle this issue. Okay, so insecure feeling of the mechanics, it is an issue. I agree with that, and sometimes union pressure also there. Okay,
Yeah, thank you very
union
much.
pressure also there.
Thank you.
So you have to recognize the mechanics and bring them to the next level. Introduce a multi-skilling jobs. You can define them as a multi-skilling, the mechanics. They love to learn engineering because they don't have a basic engineering.
Yeah.
But somehow they became a mechanic. Okay. Sometimes the person who joined the company when the company was doing construction, so he was the helper to a mason.
Yeah. Yeah.
Finally, he became the mechanic.
Yes.
Right. So he doesn't have a proper background to become a mechanic. Okay.
Yeah.
So then we need to bring a proper the training programs for mechanics to upgrade their knowledge on hydraulic, pneumatic, drive transmissions. So we have to have a technical training center inside to develop the mechanic. That works. I mean, it worked for me also. So my experience is other way. The mechanics are ready to give some tasks because I mean they can enjoy the time. Okay, but operators are reluctant to take over the mechanics tasks. Why? Operators always say mechanics are highly paid. If you look at the wage scale, always mechanic salary is higher than the operator. Then operator's attitude is they are taking higher salary, so why we should take their responsibility? So that is the experience I have at the moment. But insecure feeling of mechanics also I experienced in some cases.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Do we have any more questions, students? We get a question in the text, Mr. Pushkumar.
Okay.
Could you please elaborate more on the difference between TP and RCM?
Okay, the difference is now RCM start with the risk assessment of the equipment. The reliability centered maintenance means we do the risk assessment of the machines. Okay. Now we identify the failure modes. There's a tool called FMEA, failure mode and effect analysis. Now take one component, okay, shaft. Oh, okay, what if the shaft fails? Okay, these are the consequences. Now these consequences, we go for a ranking system, risk ranking system. Okay. Now, okay, if the shaft fails, now the severity of the breakdown, and detection of the breakdown. So how fast we can detect the breakdown and the severity of the breakdown, and then the occurrence of the breakdown. These are the three areas we consider in FMEA: detection, severity, and the occurrence probability. Then we multiply these things and you get your risk level. Right? Now we go through the risk levels of all components. We do this exercise for all critical components of the equipment, and we go and one by one. Then you can identify the high risk equipment. Then you immediately recommend preventive maintenance methods for this particular part. Okay, their focus is high risk parts. They go first with preventive maintenance. Rest of the items they will go with breakdown maintenance. Okay, let it break, right? So we will repair it once it is break. Okay, now the cost of the production stoppages is less, and you can immediately replace the part sometimes. Oh, you have some standby machine to run. Okay, and the repair time is okay 20 minutes. Within 20 minutes, within 10 minutes, you can complete the repair. Then you don't give the priority for this part in RCM. Okay, you give the priority for critical parts. The critical parts you identify with the risk assessment. This is the approach in RCM. Identify the reliability. You can give the rank for that. And TPM is a shop floor activity. TPM is a shop floor activity, and start the activity with the operator. And in TPM, we take the overall maintenance of the equipment, not only the critical parts, We don't do the risk assessment to select the part in TPM. We take all parts. Okay. When it comes to plant maintenance only, we go for equipment ranking, A, B, C ranking. Okay. A means high critical machines. B, okay, less critical. C, not critical. Okay. So this is the equipment ranking we do in TPM. But how you rank the equipment in RCM is with FMEA, with risk assessment. Okay. Now in TPM, how you rank the equipment? We take safety. What if machine breaks? Will it lead to fatal accident, lost time accident? What if the machine fails in terms of quality? Will it affect the yield, right? Then I have to take it seriously. Likewise, I will identify A category machines: quality, safety, maintenance cost, maintainability. There are 6 criteria to identify the critical equipment in TPM. In RCM, it is through FMEA. So this is the basic, the fundamental difference of these two concepts. Okay? And both concepts develop preventive maintenance schedules. The RCM developed the preventive maintenance schedule first for the high risk machines, high risk level machines.
Thank you, Mr. Pushkumar. Apparently, we don't have any more questions. In that case, I would invite Dr. Asela Kulathunga to give you the digital certificate as an acknowledgement. Please, Dr. Asela. Dr. Asela, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Tilak Pushkumar. So I'll first share the digital certificate we made for all the webinar speakers. So this is as a token of appreciation for your time and efforts in helping us to develop these new areas within the department. So thank you very much. So I'll share this through email. We hope that we will be able to closely work in future with this institute, Lean Management Institute in future. So this is the kind of a beginning for this journey. I would like to thank on behalf of the Department of Manufacturing and Industrial Engineering, especially for your valuable time and efforts, and especially to Mr. Sanjeeva Jaisundara for introducing you to the department. So he's one of our industry advisory board member also. So when we searching for webinar speakers for this year, he immediately responded and told me that there's a very capable person to do this thing. So that is not other than you. So I am very happy and very thankful for his introduction as well. So thank you very much. So I hope that in future also we will be able to have similar events with the support of Lean Management Institute for the benefit of the students. Most of the time, I think students need a good place to continue these areas once they join the industry. I think your institute is one of the pioneers who are doing this kind of training in Sri Lanka. So hopefully most of the production or manufacturing and industrial engineers will be end up with one of your training programs in future, mainly because of this kind of introduction and collaborations we are having with the departments. So let's hope that we will be able to do more things in future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Really appreciate your certification. Thank you.
And finally, Mr. Bandaranaike can deliver the formal vote of thanks. Namal.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Ilankon. So let me formally thank Mr. Tilak Pushpakumara, the founder and CEO of Institute of Lean Management Private Limited. So that was one of the best webinars that I have attended to. So as you may know, this is part of a webinar series that is conducted by Department of Manufacturing and Industrial Engineering. So we had quite a number of sessions in 2020, but this happens to be only the second talk for 2021. I think we had a very good start for the year with this talk, the second talk. And so it was very insightful. I think, since you have lots of hands-on experience that showed in your talk, I think a lot of people could feel the practicality of the talk and how it can be applied in the industry. And you went into a lot of details on how to practice the TPM in the industry. So that was very insightful for not only for the students, I think the staff members as well. So thank you very much, Mr. Pushpakumara. So Dr. Kulatunga mentioned, we also want to thank Mr. Sanjeev Jayasundara of John Keels Holdings for introducing the speaker to us, which was very valuable indeed. So as usual, let me also thank everyone else who contributed to make this talk possible. So those who designed the webinars, who helped host the meeting, those who helped to make the session live, and as usual, the participants who participated and actively asked questions from the session, from the chair. Thank you, everyone. We wish to see you all at the next talk of DMIE. Thank you very much and have a very pleasant evening.
Thank you.
Yeah, with that, we'll conclude the session. Good night, you all.
Thank you.